Watching us tonight, President Obama and liberalism. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. There is great joy in left-wing precincts after President Obama's inauguration speech yesterday. No longer does the president seek to portray himself as a moderate. He is now an out-of-the-closet liberal. That's no surprise. Every American should have realized the president's left-wing ideology long before the address. The problem we have in America is not President Obama. The problem's us. We the people have to decide whether we want a market-based economy or allow the federal government to control commerce, including health care and living expenses. The president believes in equality, and that's nice. Equality would be great. And if there is a heaven, I assume we'll see it there. But on earth, equality is impossible. You cannot equate an American who holds a PhD with a high school dropout. No matter what President Obama tells us, the two will never be equal in the marketplace. Therefore, the president seems to want to change the marketplace, putting the federal government in charge of who gets what, even in the private sector. Now, yesterday, he confidently stated that his so-called progressive view will bring the nation prosperity. But it has not, and it will not. In fact, if America continues down the big spending road, this country could well go bankrupt. A very interesting question is, why are so many Americans accepting President Obama's vision when less than 30 years ago, President Reagan was the political icon? With Reagan in mind, President Obama made his stand.
This was a declaration that his interest is to restore us to the liberal ascendancy of 60 years that Reagan stopped. He gave us these 3 decades, and Clinton, in the middle of the 3 decades, said in his 96 State of the Union address, the era of big government is over. This speech was a declaration, the era of big government is back.
And it's back with a vengeance. Let me give you a stark example of the choice all of us must make. Years ago, a man named Rupert Murdoch started a company called the News Corporation. Right now, News Corp employs 48,000 people worldwide. Those people, and I am one of them, are given opportunity. I've seized that opportunity and done well. But President Obama told me I did not build the factor alone, that the government somehow is partially responsible for my success. Well, it is true that I take a road to work, the Long Island Expressway. But believe me, that is not helping me succeed, Mr. President. That road is a mess, and you won't fix it. By contrast, the president has added more than 130,000 people to the federal payroll. Estimated cost to the taxpayer, about $10 billion a year. Now, most of those federal employees work hard, but their salaries and benefits are provided by the taxpayers in the private sector, the employees of News Corp. We give to the country by funding government and expanding business so more folks can work. The struggle in America right now is not between Republicans and Democrats, it's between us, we the people. You either want freedom or you don't. And every time the government imposes a new tax or sets up more entitlements, it becomes stronger and we the people become weaker. And that is what Inauguration Day 2013 was all about. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight, let's bring in the aforementioned Charles Krauthammer from Washington. So, Charles, I'm getting pretty tired of the petty politics, and I don't believe Barack Obama is the problem. We're the problem, the folks. And you say?
Well, I think it'll be determined by history. I think your theory, and there are two, is that we get the government we deserve, that Obama reflects a change in sort of the political ideology of the country. As the country has become more dependent, more people receiving the benefits of government, that there's a lot more people who want to suck on the teat of the state, if I can say that on your show, get a little spice to it. And that's one theory, and it's certainly true of Europe. And that is where we are headed. The question you're asking, I think, is are we there? I don't think that the 2012 election is a definitive test of your proposition. And the reason is that Obama did not have an opponent who presented a coherent and strong argument for, let's say, the Reaganite perspective of smaller government, less taxes, less dependency. You know, Romney was a good man, but he basically ran on the economy. Lousy economy. We need a new CEO in Washington. It didn't work. I think we will get a good test of this in 2016. We're going to have the 4 years of Obama's hyper-liberalism, the kind of stuff he elucidated and enunciated yesterday in the inaugural address. And I would say that if our ideology, conservative, small government ideology, is correct, it will leave a mess behind. But we will also need, as conservatives, or Republicans if you like, a standard bearer until 2016 who can make the case. And there is not a dearth of them. We have a very strong bench. We've got Ryan, we've got Rubio, we've got the governors. There's a whole young generation of conservatives who can make the case. That will be the test. Although I will say that if liberals keep winning elections, then your theory of a fundamental change in the nature of the electorate and the sense of dependency at which point it becomes a point of no return would be right.
All right.
I'm just saying we don't know, and history will tell us rather soon.
But there's something wrong with we the people. There's something wrong now in this country. In the election of 2010, the Tea Party emerged, and the Republicans did very well. All right? They took the House back from the Democrats, and the surge was to the right and to a smaller government, more responsible government. That evaporated so quickly in front of my eyes and your eyes. All of the momentum evaporated. It all went away in less than 2 years. And I don't know why. And that's on the folks, is it not?
No, I think, in fact, I think that's an argument for the other side, and I'll tell you why. You can't get a fundamental change in the philosophy of a country in 2 years. That doesn't happen. What does happen is you run the 2010 election. What was the difference between 2010 and 2012? 2010, there was no presidential candidate at the top of the ticket. It was a purely ideological election, which was largely on Obamacare, the revulsion against Obamacare, the single most intrusive legislation.
But why didn't that carry through? If there was so much revulsion, why didn't it carry through to the election of 2012?
Because the candidate chosen in 2012 had passed Romneycare, which was the equivalent of Obamacare.
But still, you would think they would vote against the guy, the architect of this big liberal machine that now is exposed. You know, remember in 2008, Barack Obama was a much more moderate guy, according to Barack Obama. All right, he's actually the same guy. We know that. But the folks turned real fast, Charles. I'll give you the last word.
No, they didn't. Bill, you're dancing around the issue. You're saying, why would they elect a guy who was the engineer of Obamacare? Because the alternative is a guy who did Romneycare.
Yeah, but nobody bought that Romney was going to prop that up. He said he was going to do away with it.
But he never offered a strong conservative alternative. If you had run a Reagan, who I admit is exceptional in his charisma and be able to explain things, but Reagan would have won. Those were conditions that Republicans lost the election, and they lost it because they couldn't make the case. The case is there to be made, and they need a candidate who will make it. I think the country would respond.
All right.